Hi everyone, welcome to the first video on my channel. Welcome to Jay's World. So basically this is a segment on my channel where I post on Mondays called Mundane Monday. I'm just going to be talking about what's on my mind and what I want to talk about. So anyways, let's get started into the video. The topic for today is about talking to yourself because frankly enough, I talk to myself a lot. As you can probably tell since you're watching literally a YouTube video where I'm talking to a camera, which can basically be summed up by me talking to myself. I'm going to make a disclaimer. This video is not backed up by science at all. It's just a video that I thought would be fun to make and just to be fun to have a discussion around. It has nothing to do with science. It's not backed up by science, purely anecdotal and from my point of view. So I just want to put that out there. I might come to a conclusion that's untrue or unproven by science or something, and I'm fully would be happy to be corrected. But yeah, let's get into it. So what do I personally think? So why do I talk to myself? It's just something that I've always done. I watch my mum talk to herself. She's also somebody who talks to herself a lot, have full-blown conversations with herself, start talking to herself, start cussing people out. To herself, imagining that it'd be someone else, I assume. So I guess me being around that environment and watching other people also talk to themselves has made it totally normal for me to do the same thing. My mum did it, so now I do it. And so yeah, it's just basically been something that I consistently do because I've been around it. In other news, isn't it so strange? You could never tell what somebody else is thinking and what somebody else has in their mind. Like that's just something that you can't find out unless they go out of their way to tell you. I find that to be the strangest thing. Same thing with colors. So seeing what other people see and seeing, you could never have somebody else's. I guess if you got an implant. I don't know, unless you got somebody else's eye into yours, like you will never be able to see what somebody else sees. You won't be able to say this. You can't prove it. It's the same hues. You can't, unless you're twins, of course, but that doesn't count. Same hues, like the same color saturation. You don't know what somebody else sees, even if they're your siblings and they like share 99% of your genes. Like you can't be so sure to see whether or not the color that you see is the same color as they see. This is a tangent, but I find that to be extremely crazy. And I guess in the same way, you could never know what somebody else is thinking because you can't be in their brain. You can't go through their thoughts. You can't have their experiences. Like it just can't happen. And like that's why, I guess, in the sense of talking to yourself, that's probably, or like talking to other people, that's like the only way you can possibly get what's going on in your brain to another person, which is insane. Anywho, I generally talk to myself the most when I am confused, angry, frustrated, or really stressed. Like if somebody had a conversation with me with lasting impact, I'd think about it and be like, why? And I would be like in the bathroom, be like, why the fuck would she say that to me? Like, why would she say that? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like how could you just like, when you're frustrated and you're like, what nonsense, right? When someone does nonsense, you're like, well, how could you be so nonsensical to say such a thing to me? Which is practically where I start talking to someone because like I go through like the mindset of them and I try to understand where they're coming from and just be like, how could they have done this? Like, what is going on? In situations like that. It also helps a lot during stressful situations in the same way that I assume that writing down your thoughts and opinions in a journal is really helpful because you're getting out everything on the inside your brain. You're getting it outside the same way how you would get it outside when you talk to a friend. So I see no difference between talking it out with a friend but also talking it out yourself with nobody present, because the fact of the matter is you're turning all of that nebulous space inside of your brain, all these thoughts that you're having going on, all these thoughts you have going on, you're getting those and you're turning them into words, and with the words you're making them into sentences, and you're vocalizing your thoughts, you're vocalizing what's going on, why you're stressed, or at least to a certain extent you've thought about it, or you've put quite a bit of effort into making something that just made your head hurt, that made your stomach feel icky, that did something like that. You're turning that energy into words. And so I guess to a certain extent, you are relieving yourself of a lot of pressure by talking to yourself. At least that's what I tend to find, because when I'm stressed, I just talk, I sing, I write, I do something to get about the thoughts that I have. And I can't like funnel it into like something else. Like, how people like, I'm going to use this energy that I would have dedicated to X and I'm going to funnel into Y. No, that doesn't work with me. If the energy is like this, like X, it's going to go into X, but just like in a different form, like ice to water. It's not going to become like ice to like cherries. Like that's not what I can, people who do that, you're like, wow, like, you're so amazing. Like, how can you do that? How can you do that? I can't do it. But just because I can't do something doesn't mean other people can't do it. I'm just like, fatally flawed. And I'm like, projecting, because I wish I could do that. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. I'm going to make myself productive. Like, I just cannot. So basically what I'm trying to say is listening to yourself talk helps me process clearly what is going on in my brain into words. I guess in the same way how teachers always ask students, they're always like, if you want your essay to flow more, or if you want to see like your arguments, you just read it out aloud and you listen to it yourself, and then you'll be able to pick out what doesn't fit. And I guess so, like the same way that happens is the same way that I go through my thoughts. So you go through the whole nebulous thought into word into sentence, you speak it using your vocal cords and everything, and then you listen back to it, and then you see, that thought was a X, that thought was a Y, that thought was something else. Because frankly enough, I have a lot of thoughts. Not all of them are good. Not all of them are good. Not all of them are valid. Not all of them should exist. But thoughts happen, and you vocalize it. I listen to it. I get my own personal playback, and I'm like, okay, that sounds good enough to me to be repeated to somebody else, like a thought, a theory, or just some incredible thing that I just, have to talk about or be. That is, why would you say something like that? Are you dumb? Or a C, don't ever say that ever again. You have issues. I can't believe that came out of your mouth. This is why you have thoughts to yourself. So you go through your own vetting process at home, or at least in a space where you feel comfortable to start talking to yourself. You're just like, yeah, good thought. I'm going to repeat that to somebody and make myself seem smart. Bad thought. You don't ever say that ever again. Like that's how I go through things, and that's how I go through life. I'm just like, I need to have my own personal pressure chamber, where I can just think about stuff and then say it, hear it, and then choose whether or not I want to continue with this kind of conversation and that kind of speech. It's this like habit of mine is very, 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 very helpful in the sense of presentations. I don't stress for presentations. It's just not a thing. Like I can be stressed because I'm worried that the content I'm about to say is bad, or I can be stressed that somebody else's presentation is going to be way better than mine. But in terms of public speaking, in terms of talking in front of an audience, in terms of all that kind of stuff, or like not procrastinating, theater, what do you guys do? That thing where you're like on the spot. I can't remember it. I studied theater. Like, I don't know why I don't remember it. So I can go from like, I just need like a minute. I just need a minute to prepare for a presentation, because it's a lot quicker for me, because I'm so used to making all my nebulous thought come into words that it's never been something that I've had an issue with. When people take the time to think about the thoughts and why they're having the thoughts and make it out into words, if they're not used to, I guess, talking out aloud to themselves and listening to themselves, I guess that it's not quite as easy. So for me, I zoom through all my presentations. I have a great time. Marvelous, because I'm, an attention seeker. Can't help it. And that's pretty cool for me. Of course, when there's an upside, there's also a downside. So because my thoughts go into words so quickly, in like click, snap of a finger, like I don't even have to think about it. Like the thoughts in my mind go into words easy, seamless, right? But of course, there's a downside to that. The downside being when I'm comfortable with somebody, or I'm just like in a thinking, speaking mode. Sometimes I say the wrong things that I don't necessarily mean, that I don't necessarily support, but it was just like a fleeting thought, a thought that like was 1 second, or it took me 0.1 second to come up with, just a thought, just fleeting, and I turn that into words, and it's a waste of words, you know? Like, you said something so incredibly stupid. You said something that was, that it only took me to say it to be able to realize how offensive it was, and then like just duct tape my mouth because I shouldn't say those things, because it was just a fleeting thought. But you can only tell how bad a thought is until you say it and you hear it yourself. You're like, ah, damn, you were wrong. You did the wrong thing. You said the wrong thing. And yeah, that happens. So sometimes I would be with somebody who I consider myself to be really good friends with, comfortable enough with to be in a thinking, talking state, or at least in a position where I feel like I'm alone in a crowd. So like, it doesn't really matter. I can still like think and talk at the same time. And so sometimes, because I lack that filter, I can start to talk to myself and say things that I don't mean. And that's something that's not okay. And it's something that I've been trying to work with, actually, to be like, no, like, you need to stop. Like, there actually kind of needs to be a filter, because even though it's a really, really, really good thing to be able to turn your thoughts into words so very quickly, sometimes you can say the wrong things. And I guess compared to other people who are more judicious in the words that they choose to use, who are more eloquent in the words that they choose to use, because they do talk less and like their words mean more. My words are like running water, are like sand in the desert. It's just free flowing. It just is, you know? Sometimes I don't value words as much as other people. I don't think I do, to be honest. And sometimes like it's just not cool. So another reason why I talk to myself is because I suffer from chronic anxiety. And like my anxiety feeds into my paranoia, and my paranoia just like, you know, paranoia. Can't help that. Life is right. But one of the things that I can't stand, or I can't it's not necessarily I can't stand it, but like I can't emotionally deal with, is having awkward situations, or being in awkward situations, or being taken by surprise, or just not having thought about it before and then having to deal with it on the fly, because some things are just really difficult, and I'm just like, what did you actually say? Like, what did you say? I guess a couple of situations where I think about the most is when I'm wearing clothing that's quite different. So I'm talking about, like my like platform shoes. That's not really that different. You're not that special for wearing platform shoes, but like sometimes I feel like I am. So like platform shoes, or like crazy wonderful makeup, which I decided to wear outside to like an Italian dinner that I was going to eat at for an hour and a half in like a remote suburb. I just felt like putting on extravagant makeup, like sue me. Makeup, hair, clothes, and getting approached and being like, oh my God, I love your makeup. What palette did you use? Like, and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, thank you. My palette is this. And like, I really like your this. And then you compliment back, because like the exchange in compliments, otherwise it's really awkward when it's like a one-sided compliment. You're like, oh, thanks. I really like you have to follow it up with something, otherwise it's just awkward, and I don't want to deal with that. Ugh, no way. Having like outlandish tastes and like wearing nice clothes or wearing extravagant makeup is something I'm very, very comfortable with, and being approached by randos and strangers about that, perfectly fine. It happens quite often, and I'm like, cool. I've been in this situation enough, so I can actually deal with it very, very appropriately. Situations in which I'm not yet entirely accustomed to include getting approached by dudes or getting hit on. Like, that's just like, it happens. I hate it. But it happens, you know? Like, I just because I hate something doesn't mean it's going to stop happening. And so the only way you can really get about that is by adapting, and I guess making words or coming up with conversations in which you can mitigate circumstances in which I would be in danger, or if I wanted to reject somebody and make it less awkward and make it less painful for the both of us, I've got a perfectly written out speech to do so. Okay, I guess like that this just might be a J thing, because frankly enough, like I have the mental fortitude the mental capacity to literally think of like every conversation ahead of time with my friends, because I know them. I know what kind of topics they want to talk about. I know what kind of things they say. I know where they come from, like their stance on things and like their values and stuff like that. So you can quite easily anticipate what people are going to say and a particular response. And so like that's fine. So like sometimes when I have conversations with people, I'm like in full autopilot, and then they say something that was not in the register of my brain, and I'm still in autopilot. So I just like say some stuff that like doesn't fit in with a conversation, and they're like what? I'm like, and like you have to snap back into it. You like get the gears running and start listening again, because like you can't go in autopilot anymore. You're like, damn it. Anywho, we're getting distracted. Conversations getting hit on, right? Anyways, you have to make a game plan, make sure you're happy and say, oh, like I've already got a boyfriend. I like this is me like talking to myself, right? Like you're going through scenarios, but you're voicing them out aloud, just to have like a back and forth. Oh, like I already have a boyfriend, or oh, like I'm not interested in dating right now, or other things, like other things you can say to other people. Oh, thank you, like I'm really flattered. Yeah, sorry, I don't give out my number to strangers though, but thank you, sorry. Right? Or you can do something like that. Because it's, I cringe. Somebody came to my workplace and was like, oh, like, I helped him buy clothes or whatever, and he was like, oh, like, you're cute, can I have your number? And this was like around like the first-ish time I've been hit on, just randomly out of nowhere. Ugh, right? Left field. Put my hands up. I put my hands up, cross sign. I start shaking my head. I'm like, no. I'm like, no, I'm good, thanks. Like, no. Oh my, I put my hands up in a cross. I shook my head. Like, that was like, I'm so embarrassed. And he was really nice, but I was so rude about it. And like, my whole body was just saying, no. But it was so like, I literally ran away. I walked away and I hid in the change rooms, right? Because that's what I do with my life. But it was so embarrassing. Like, he was really nice as well, and like I didn't have to treat him that way. Like, he probably doesn't really think about it anymore, but like I probably just made him feel really bad for the rest of his day, just being like no, like no, like I didn't want it to seem like I was disgusted by him, but if it came across that way, it's because he took me by left field. And do you see where I'm coming from? The anxiousness and the paranoia. Like, this is why I have to like make a proper response to things, because I can still think about it. It's been like a year and a half, and I still get like, it's too much. It's too much in my heart. I can't emotionally handle situations like this. Like, I just cannot. Like, this is not fun and games. Like, I don't enjoy this. I don't enjoy making people feel like crap. I don't enjoy that. Like, that's not fun. Ugh, it's not fun at all. Basically, just to come up again about it, like, this YouTube channel is just going to be me voicing out my thoughts and my opinions directly into a microphone. Basically, me talking about myself on Mundane Mondays and bringing it out to you. I think there are definitely good sides to talking to yourself and making it a constant habit to talk to yourself, and there are definitely bad sides as well. As like, and sometimes the bad sides can be extremely bad. Like, so I've said some things that I regret, and I want to shoot myself in the foot, because it's just like, I don't feel like it represents my character. Like, why did I say that? Like, why did I have to think about it and say it? There are definitely good parts and there are definitely bad parts. But I think overall, generally, talking to yourself is something that I'm going to continue to do in the future, because it's literally ingrained in my soul. I talk to myself all the time. I talk to myself when I'm in the kitchen, when I'm cooking food. I talk to myself when I'm in the shower, and then when I have conversations. Like, I talk to myself in my room. I talk to myself, like, everywhere. Like, I talk to myself when I'm at work. Like, it's just something that I do. I just talk to myself, and I talk and I talk and I talk and I talk. Maybe it's because I'm actually afraid of the silence and I can't emotionally handle it, right? Like, I'm anxious, so I think about a lot of things all the time. When I am anxious, I guess the lesser of two evils is, instead of having this nebulous cloud of undeciphered thoughts that like could potentially be really negative or could potentially lead to a spiral where you just feel like absolute crap for endless and days, right? So instead of having that, I guess for me and my anxious self, I list like funneling those into words and speaking them out aloud and then listening back to that straight away. I guess that gives me some modicum of control, or at least helps me recognize that what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm saying, and I'm hearing it back isn't as irrational as I feel, and I'm not as crazy as I feel. You know what I mean? So like, it's pros and there are cons, and there are probably underlying reasons as to why I do the things that I do. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure everybody talks to themselves, okay? I'm pretty sure everybody talks to themselves, but not necessarily to the degree or the scale that I talk to myself, and especially in the way that I use talking to myself to benefit myself. You know, like, it's something different, and it's something that is, you know. But I'm pretty sure everybody talks to themselves. I'm pretty sure. I would like to say that, like, if somebody was in their room talking to themselves, and you walk in holding like a plate of fruit, being like, "Oh, do you want some fruit?" Pretty sure a lot of people wouldn't be talking to themselves in that situation. But me, like, when I talk to myself, when I'm doing like mathematical equations, like when I was in school, I'd be like, "Why, huh? Why X, huh? Like, why can't I figure, like, what is the problem? Like, why?" Like, you know, when you're frustrated, you're like, you just, it's not like, because I can't emotion. Like, no, I'm not gonna rip out my hair. Like, that's not the life that I live in. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna cuss X out. Like, why can't I find you? Who made up this formula? Why, huh? Pythagoras, who do you think you are, huh? Do you think you're top? Like, oh my goodness, like, why? Like, this doesn't make any sense at all. And then, like, I would go through it that way. But I think talking to yourself, this YouTube channel basically is me going to be talking to myself and then posting it on the internet, hopefully trying to get a community where we can all talk to each other about what's going on in our minds, because I just have a lot of thoughts that, like, I don't really tell anyone, and like, I feel like some people just need to hear it, not because they, like, their life would be enriched, but just because, like, hear it, because people are bored. And, you know, when you wash the dishes, I want like a solid 25-minute video where it's just like, I can just listen to whatever somebody else's stream of consciousness and feel absolutely fine with that, like, absolutely happy. To sum up the video, talking to yourself, this is why I do it, this is how it happens. And basically, if you want more content from me, please subscribe or like my video or share my video. Engagement, this is my first video, so basically, like, I'm not going to get any engagement, but if you like it, feel free to give it a thumbs up or follow my channel. Thank you, guys. Bye.